Could you ever imagine abandoning your teenage children for 7 years on the streets of London? That is what happened to me and my brother. Years later, I realized that these dramatic years were part of what made me the independent and fulfilled person that I am. So, should we abandon our children to make them stronger? I grew up in Israel, in a family that had everything. A beautiful house by the sea, fancy cars, nannies and summer schools, and nothing prepared me for what was coming my way. The plan was that we were moving to England. My brother and I would travel first, and my parents and sister would follow later. We traveled first, but they never came. I remember the phone call from the public red box. My parents dropped the bomb. They had difficulties in the business. We all had to cut down on expenses, and it sounded that they were never going to come. And they never did. Standing there in the red phone booth with the stinking smell of stale cigarettes, I looked outside at my brother. He was playing in the park. How am I, at 17, going to take care of my 14-year-old brother? How the hell am I going to make a living? And where are we going to live? In my mind, I dropped into an ocean with no land on the horizon. We were abandoned, and there was no one I could trust. Finding a place to live was tricky. Some landlords told us that a brother and sister cannot share a room, and that was 1990. Finding a job without a visa at the age of 18 meant that I waited on a lot of tables and cleaned hotel rooms, but my best jobs were playing the piano in bars. It was my dream to study at the Royal College of Music, but the idea or the prospect of becoming a starving artist made me file an application to study law. I enrolled into university at the age of 20, not knowing how I would pay for it. But at the end, I discovered that I could just divide it to very small payments. And also I discovered that I could just cross the road each time I saw the tuition officer. During my studies, I discovered the field of intellectual property. I loved the idea of protecting the creations of the mind. It connected between my love for music and the real life. I survived. I made a career for myself. I made the best of it. So perhaps my parents did the right thing after all. They forced me to struggle and succeed. So can abandoning our own children help make them stronger? Well, no. Because we only hear about the people who survive, who rise to the challenge, but not so much about the ones who don't. To illustrate the point, think of airplanes in World War II. The British were trying to reinforce their airplanes against enemy fire. They decided to do an extensive research of all the hits and the holes in the planes that came back. It took one guy who told them that they got it completely backwards. What they needed to look at was at the planes that did not return, because these were the planes that suffered the hits in critical places that caused the planes to crash, the engines. So with this in mind, I tried to retrace my journey. If I could identify my critical parts, that if hit would cause my story to be a different one, maybe I can identify the areas in my children's life that are worth reinforcing. I suffered a few significant hits during my 7 years in London. One evening, our flat caught fire. I was in the kitchen. I smell a funny smell. I look out of the window. I see that the skyline has an orange color. Then came the pounding on the door, the evacuation. I grabbed our passports. My brother grabbed his basketball. We ran down the stairs. see hundreds of people looking at our building and pointing to the flames. Despite the shock of the fire, the feeling of being destitute did not linger. I had to take care of practicalities and look for a new home. Once, a few immigration officers decided to pay me a visit and arrest me. I could not believe 4 police officers standing there with their black shiny hats, not where they're supposed to be in Buckingham Palace, right? In my kitchen, explaining why I needed to be arrested. I tried to explain I was a foreign student on paying full tuition fees, but that didn't help. I was taken to the nearest police station. And after hours of interrogation, when I was almost willing to confess I was a terrorist on a mission, I suddenly remembered this guy I met at a party, a barrister, lawyer. I just called him up and saved my skin. Looking back, I realized that my critical parts were the belief in myself, the knowledge that I was in the lead. My engine had remained intact. The fire, the arrest were damage to my wings. I maneuvered, I regrouped, I returned. But even when the journey seemed to be over, here I was crying about this and processing it years later. And I still have questions for my parents. After years of not trusting anyone, I found my perfect soulmate, a fine gentleman who I felt I could completely trust. We have 2 fantastic teenagers who are soon going to be the exact same age as me and my brother were then. Even if I don't leave them on the streets, how are they going to learn to cope with the difficulties of an increasingly complex world? I cannot imagine leaving them on the streets. I want to shield them, but I know that I shouldn't. Here are a few things that I do with my children. I don't overprotect them. Too many layers of protection will numb the senses and make it hard for them to develop their confidence and thrive. I encourage them to make their own meals. I encourage them to get a part-time job. I take a step back and I let them make their own decisions and their own mistakes, and not try to fix everything for them so that they can become the leaders of their own life. After all, the only thing to reinforce is their belief in themselves. Thank you.